One of the main things I always get asked is, do you really need Japanese to travel here in Japan, especially Tokyo? Not really, no. But let's take a closer look. Alright, so picture the setting. You got some money, you want to travel somewhere, and you're like, you know what? I've always wanted to travel to Japan, but wait, I don't speak any other language, or the closest thing I know is kore de owari da from an anime that I watched, right? Well, you can't really say that when you're going around Japan, right? Because that sentence, that statement right there is not the friendliest of meanings, I would say. So in this video, I want to talk about, do you really need Japanese to get around Tokyo, I would say. And obviously, I think that also can help you if you're going to look to go to any of the other major cities in Japan, Osaka, Kyoto, Hiroshima, Fukuoka, any of those places, right? So I just want to use this video as a time to kind of show you guys what I mean when it comes to how Tokyo itself and other areas can look when just walking around. And if you're seeing this footage that I'll be showing you in and out in between the video, you know, if it looks scary and you think, oh, maybe I should learn some Japanese, even if it's just some basics, that's totally fine. And actually, I do have a little bit of a special guest interview today, because one of my friends and actually a fellow YouTuber came out to Japan last year, and he was kind of in that same boat. He had never traveled to Japan. He does not speak any Japanese at all. But he came out. And so I wanted to get his thoughts and his opinions about how his trip was when he was out here and everything. So that would be really cool. Look forward to that near the end of the video. But the first thing I want to talk about is just what it's like when you get into the city for the very first time, and how kind of mesmerizing it can be, but also at the same time can kind of be a little, you know, kind of freak you out sometimes, right? Because especially if you have never seen any Japanese whatsoever in terms of the language, or maybe even pictures online or anything, it can be a little bit taken aback. I mean, I can speak from experience. When I originally came here to Japan way back when I was 17 in high school, and I had studied Japanese for 2 years in high school, but I had not really looked at any pictures online. Like, I think I looked at a few temples and everything for some school projects, but that was about it. And then when I arrived, I just remember being like, whoa, wow, like, wow, okay, I clearly flew over the ocean. It's not some simulator just floating there for 9 hours. No, we are in another country. And I just remember seeing like all the kanji, all the hiragana, all the katakana, and even some of the random English in there as well, or using like random English words or letters for some reason. And I'm just like, wow, this is I need to improve my Japanese a little bit if I want to get around here, you know, with fluent speaking and everything. But when I got to the hotel and everything, and I remember I had terrible jet lag, I passed out at like 9 p.m. or something, and I woke up at like 4 a.m. and I just went out for a little walk, and I was just like, you know what, this is really cool. This is kind of mesmerizing and everything, in the good way, in the best way possible, by the way, when I say that. But I noticed there were 3 different kind of ways to look at it when I arrived. There were the places that had a lot of English help, and, you know, like the signs were in English, you know, the menus, or, you know, the, you know, price tags and the descriptions on items, that things you could buy, all in English, right? Easily, no problem. You could read it. You're like, okay, I could come here for a week. I could survive, no problem. And then I'd go home, right? Then there were the kind of the second area of, you know, places I went to where it was like, you had a little bit of English help, you know, maybe the map said like, you are here. And that was about it, basically. And then you might see some random English in some spots of some signs around some of the buildings or anything like that. But other than that, you really didn't see much other than that. It was all in Japanese, right? Which would make sense. You're here in Japan. And then there were some areas that were just full on Japanese. They did, you know, even the, you know, shop owners or the restaurant owners or anything, they did not know any English whatsoever. They looked at you like, huh? I don't speak English. Like, that's literally the only English they can speak, is I don't speak English, because they've probably used it so many times. So I remember, you know, that can kind of, you know, stop people from wanting to go explore not only a new area but a new country or anything, because again, you're just a little you're scared, right? I mean, that's everyone has that feeling when you first go somewhere new, right? You're both excited and scared at the same time. And I will say that Tokyo and Japan in general can have that effect on a lot of people. General information now kind of out of the way and what my experience was when I originally came here in high school, I want to be showing you guys some footage right now about what Tokyo looks like today and the amount of changes that have actually gone through, because a lot of this stuff wasn't around when I came here back in 2008, 2009. And it's actually pretty impressive to what they have. I mean, there's a lot of just touch menus and everything now where you can go through, select English, Korean, Chinese, you name it. And it's actually very easy to get around. A lot more signs are in English now. A lot of, if you're going on the trains or anything like that, a lot of the train staff can actually help you. They can, for the most part, they can speak English. In fact, you get a lot of English, announcements over the intercom. For example, like this one.
お出口は左側です。湘南新宿ライン、海峡線、相鉄線直通列車と東京臨海高速鉄道臨海線はお乗り換えです。This is the Yamanote Line train bound for Shibuya and Shinjuku. The next station is Osaki, JY24. The doors on the left side will open. Please change your door, the shoulder changes line, the Saito line, through service to Sotetsu line, and the Tokyo Rinkai Kotoku Rinkai line.
So it makes it very easy to get around, to travel around the areas you want. I will say though, the map to get around Tokyo, the very first time you ever see a train map, it can scare you to never want to take the train in your entire life. I mean, I definitely did that. When I first arrived, my teacher asked me, she's like, can you look at where we're supposed to go? She pointed towards the map and I looked at it and I'm like, Sensei, I have no idea where are we supposed to be going, because most of the maps are all in kanji. There's no English whatsoever. So you really have to hope that you know the station or the area that you're going to at least. Now, I will also say, compared to 2008, compared to 2019, 2020, we have things like smartphones and SIM cards, or they're very easy to exchange, which by the way, you can do here the moment you arrive in Narita Airport. You can get a SIM card for Japan and, pay like, I don't know, maybe around $50 American dollars, and you'll have unlimited, data and texting and all that kind of stuff, and you'll be fine. And you can use Google Maps the entire time. Google Maps is actually pretty proficient for the most part when it comes to getting around the city, and you can find your place 99.9% of the time. I'd say sometimes if you're like in Ginza or something like that, you for some reason it can't find the area you're really supposed to go to, or it's telling you you're really close, and then you're like, wait, but I'm like 5 blocks that way or something. So it can get a little a little weird sometimes. And another thing to also look at is just the fact that we have Google Translate. And I'm not saying that you should be using Google Translate 100% of the time, that it's always going to be super accurate and everything, but compared to what it was a long time ago, it's vastly improved. And you can easily speak into something like, where is this ramen shop? And it will tell you exactly. And you can either use an audio, or you can show somebody, it'll be written in kanji and Japanese, and they'll be like, oh, you can go this way or something like that, right? And you can get around, you can use hand gestures and everything. And with all of that, you don't need to know any Japanese whatsoever to get around here. I have met plenty of tourists here that have been traveling, whether it's in Tokyo, in Kobe, Osaka, and Kyoto. They don't speak any Japanese, but they're just coming to explore and just see everything. And they'll be here for 2 to 3 weeks, no problem. And there is enough English and, staff at hotels or restaurants or anything that can help them out, no problem. And for the most part, you're good to go. You really don't need to know Japanese. With that being said, though, should you know some Japanese? And I would say yes, in my honest opinion. I'm not saying to memorize an entire language and to learn everything, but I think it's very helpful and very important to learn some basic Japanese sentences and words and phrases that can be used almost anywhere, right? I mean, something very simple could be, like, excuse me, so sumimasen, or, thank you, or arigato, or arigato gozaimasu, right? Depending on how polite you want to be. I think learning very simple words like that can really help you when it comes to being here in Japan. So for example, when I lived here, or when I started living here, I would say, 2015 or so, anytime I went into a restaurant where, even though my Japanese speaking skills were definitely not where they are now, every time I went into a restaurant, I would still say, because everyone always greets you, whether you're going to a restaurant, a store, you name it, they always greet you, okay? Irashaimase, right? You always hear that, okay? Anytime you go into a store, Irashaimase! Hajimemashite! Or anything. And I always just say konnichiwa back. Just it's a nice little gesture to them, saying like, oh, thank you for welcoming me. Good afternoon, or ohio if it's in the morning, or konbanwa if it's in the evening. And I think what that can do is, sometimes it kind of helps, because there are times where I'll walk into restaurants or stores and I try to ask a question and you get this immediate like shock on their face, like, oh man, I got to remember English. All they see is the foreigner face. They don't hear anything. They just see the foreigner face and they're like, oh man, what did I learn from high school English 12 years ago or something like that? Can I remember? But for at least for me, if I can show them that I understand a little Japanese, just a little bit sometimes, it relieves them a little bit and they understand, okay, you know what, even if I have to use some of my English or just a little Japanese, maybe they'll understand it, or, and we can kind of help each other out, do some gestures, pointing at things, looking on a menu, or, if I have the, the item I'm looking to buy on Amazon, my Amazon app or something, or a picture of it, I can show it to them and they'll be like, oh yes, we have that. And they'll, point you in the right direction, or they'll make sure to write down your order or something. Speaking of which, everybody, I actually was able to wrangle my friend Rhymestyle. If you don't know who Rhymestyle is, linked down in the description below. But my friend here was able to come out to Japan last year, and to my knowledge, he does not know any Japanese, unless he was been lying to me this entire time.
None at all.
But I graciously sent him some questions, and I wanted him to give his honest opinions about what it was like coming over here to Tokyo for the very first time, because we were actually able to meet up and it was a lot of fun. So let's go ahead and switch on over to Rhymestyle here. Rhymestyle, how's it going, man?
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So just before we even get into any questions, just how did you like Japan? Did you enjoy it?
I loved it. Dude, it's funny. Like, one of the main reasons why I also wanted to do that trip at the time was to kind of like not get over my fear of flying, because I'm not afraid of flying, but I don't like flying, especially long distances. So one of the reasons why I did that trip, because to those who don't know, I flew out to Japan for literally 2 days, was so I can come back. And like literally, I was planning on coming back. I had literally booked a flight in like February, and then everything fell apart because stuff going on. So now I gotta wait. I'm like thirsty to visit, and I'm literally like I just had the Japan bug in the past week, especially because I just want to come back.
I know. We had even had plans to like meet up and everything, and then all of a sudden, well, 2020 just reared its head, and it was like, oh, yep, I guess this is gonna happen today. So, all right. So my first question to you then is, when you arrived in Japan, okay, what was your first reaction? Like the moment you stepped out of security, out of customs, and you were in Narita Airport, what were your thoughts? What were your feelings? Give us your honest opinion. What did you feel?
It was literally like a holy shit moment, because like this was like my first time out of the country since I moved to the US. And it didn't really hit me until I pulled my phone out, and it didn't immediately connect into the wires, not the wires, but the towers. It took a second, because I actually did get the Japanese playing on my phone, and it took like 20 minutes. So I was like walking around with I was disconnected from the world. So it was kind of overwhelming at first, and I walked out. Obviously, we had someone pick us up. Both me and Kagi arrived like an hour apart, so he had already left. So I had to just go out front and meet up with the person that was basically taking me to my hotel. But it was kind of like you can see my face. I'm like, holy shit! Like I'm in Japan.
Did you have any jet lag or anything? I'm assuming when you landed.
No.
Okay, that's actually pretty impressive. I usually get jet lag when I come over.
Sort of. I do remember waking up at like, so I think I fell asleep at like 8 or something like that. But then I woke up at 3.
Yeah, that's a little bit of jet lag right there, just trying to get used to the time zones and everything. So, all right. Okay, so you got picked up at the airport and you got over to the city and you got into your hotel and everything. Was it easy to get around the city, the area that you were in? Because if I remember correctly, you're in an area called Gotanda, which is actually pretty close to where I used to live. Was it easy to get around? Did you find it difficult? What are your thoughts on that?
I didn't know what I was doing or where I was going. That's like, you're the first person I think I texted and called. No, it was either you or Casey. I don't remember. It was one of you two. But like once I got around to one of you guys and you kind of showed me around, it was fairly easy. At first, it was kind of overwhelming because it's like you don't know where you're at. If you go anywhere and you don't know where you're at, it's like kind of like you don't know what's happening. But once you have kind of somebody to show you the light, it's fairly easy to like get around.
Okay. So then kind of jumping off of that, what was the most challenging thing you had out of your entire trip that you were here, whether you had help or not? What was just the most challenging thing when it came to either getting around the city or ordering food or anything like that? What was the most challenging thing for you?
Definitely probably just communicating. Like there was a moment like on the last day where both me and Kagi wanted to basically, because they had called us separate cars because I think Kagi's flight was like an hour before me, and we're trying to get in the same car just so we can head over to the airport together. And we had to like explain to the travel agency that like we're just trying to go together. So we had Casey actually kind of translate for us, and even they were like, "Well, this is already paid for. Like, what do you want to do?" And I was like, "Let me just hop in the car with them, and it's fine." Just like, I think the most challenging part was just the communication in general, because like you can't just like, if I have to ask a question and you're not around or Casey wasn't around, it's like I don't know what to do.
Okay, all right. So with that being said, then, after coming here to Japan for the very first time, and unfortunately your canceled trip for coming out a second time, would you study Japanese at all, like going forward, whether you finally come here for your second trip or down the line when you come here in like 10 years or something like that? Do you think you would study Japanese a little bit, not just like the basics or anything, to to at least get around a little bit?
I mean, study Japanese in terms of like the basics of knowing like
just some basics trains. Like saying hello or asking where.
Yeah. Absolutely, the basics, absolutely. Not like hardcore, because like it's kind of hard to learn a language, and I feel like Japanese is one of the more harder ones in general. But I think I would definitely try to learn some basics. Like thank you, you're welcome, stuff like that.
Okay, definitely good to know. All right. When you originally came here, then the very first time, did you feel, or I guess it's gonna be more of a two-part question, before you arrived here, so like leading up to the moment that you took off from the airport to come here to Japan, and when you actually arrived here in Japan and you had kind of taken it all in at the beginning, did you feel like you really needed to know Japanese? Or do you think, what are your thoughts on that? But both before you came and after you came, like, I should have studied up a couple of words, or when you're there going, oh crap, am I really gonna need to know the language or anything like that?
The trip happened so fast, I didn't think about it until I was there. Like once I was there and everything was in Japanese, that's why I was like, man, I kind of wish I knew something. And it got to the point where, you know what? I'm here for like 2 days. I'm just going to wing it. I'm going to just make the best of it.
That's always true. I guess it always depends on how long you could be particularly here for. Because some people go for a week, some people go for, like you, 2 days, and others go for a month. So, okay, so that's good to know then. So then I guess my last question that I just kind of came up with at the top of my head actually was, any last minute thoughts on when it came to traveling here for the first time, what you would like to do differently when you come here for the second time or third time or anything like that? And any advice you'd give to anybody else thinking of traveling to Japan?
As far as like for the next time, I just want to see more, because obviously the thing that held us back from seeing more of Japan was the fact I was just there for 2 days. Because we were there for doing a shoot on the second day. So we arrived basically in the evening. The next day we woke up, we did our shoot, and then we kind of had like free time for the rest of the evening until we had dinner time at night. And then the next day we just basically just left. So I think I definitely just want to see more, kind of explore more of the hot spots and stuff, kind of explore Japan. I also want to see like the country, like outside just the city.
Outside the city,
Yeah. I think that's probably my big goal. Is I just want to be able to just explore the countryside of Japan. As far as advice to anybody that's visiting, is just go explore, just go look, go outside, just walk around the block, just go outside and just kind of like immerse yourself in the culture and absorb being in a different kind of environment. Like it's one of those things that you're definitely going to create a permanent memory that is going to reside with you forever.
I definitely agree with that. I definitely agree with that. So, all right, man. Well, thank you so much for jumping onto the channel real quick and giving us your thoughts and opinions about when you originally came here. And I really, really, really hope that this pandemic can finally end sometime. And
yes.
You can come back out and we can hang out more and show you around and not be stuck inside for what feels like eternity right now.
Hit up that ramen spot again? Yes.
Dude,
please.
yes. We are 100% going to be hitting up that ramen spot. Absolutely. No questions asked. So, all right, Ryan. Well, thank you so much for jumping on, man. And I hope you guys will check out Rhyme's channel if you haven't already. Link down in the description below. And thank you so much for joining me in this little questionnaire.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
So in conclusion, I hope I've covered enough of kind of a basic understanding of, do you really need Japanese to get around here? And again, using the footage that I've been showing in the backgrounds while I'm, talking to you guys and everything, I hope that has kind of shown that, if you see a lot of this kanji and a lot of the Japanese that's used and some of the English that's used as well, and if you're thinking to yourself, do I need to really know Japanese to come here? Again, you don't need to memorize the language. That's all but impossible if we're trying to do a little trip. But I would highly recommend that learning some basic words, even learning the names of the places you want to go and recognizing how to pronounce them and everything can make your experience not only easier, but just a lot more enjoyable when you're here and everything. Again, anything from traveling on the bullet train to going to a restaurant or buying something from the store, that can help a lot. And it, I think at the same time, like I stated before, it relaxes the locals here as well that maybe don't speak English as well. Because, obviously if you're like in the dead center of Tokyo Station, you can go up and speak English, no problem. They'll be fine, right? But the moment you leave the city or the center of the city, a lot of people don't speak English or they know very little. So it can kind of help you guys both and understand that, okay, look, I know a little bit. I know maybe using English isn't the easiest thing, but we're able to connect at least. And, we can use things like gestures and pointing at things, using pictures. If you want to speak some Japanese, that's fine. And then I'll point and use my little English to, make sure everything seems okay. And then I'll be on my way, or I'll buy the thing that I need to buy and all that kind of fun stuff. So, take the time, I think, to learn some words, to learn some phrases, and it will make your trip a lot more enjoyable. And now we just need 2020 to, kind of, wrap it up here. Pandemic, we need you to go away. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me hear your thoughts down below in the comments. If you have traveled to Japan, did you know any Japanese when you first came here? Or, did you, were you fluent or anything? Or do you plan on coming to Japan in the future after everything has, finally settled down and everything? And do you know any Japanese, or are you now going to study any Japanese before coming over here? And where are you going to go? Are you just going to be in the big cities? Are you going to go out in the countryside and everything like that? Which I will say on the side note, if you do go into the countryside, you're probably going to need to know a lot more Japanese than, konnichiwa, right? The further out, the more rural you go, which is kind of obvious, I think, in almost any country, you're not going to find as much English help. So be prepared if you are doing that. All right. Anyway, that's me for the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Leave your thoughts down below in the comments as always. Leave a like if you liked the video. Subscribe if you happen to be new. Until next time, everyone, I will see you all in the next one. Johnny.